Live.
Isn't this pre-recorded?
Shut up.
From his bedroom.
Did you say his bedroom?
Why, yes. Yes, I did.
Oh, he is such a bad boy.
Say, man, what this show about anyway?
Politics. Religion.
Say what? Don't you know you're not allowed to talk about that stuff?
It's time to break some rules then. Prepare to get triggered and be made uncomfortable because here's your host, the Jace Man, Jace Barnett. And this is Those Two Things.
All right, guys, welcome back to another mask-free edition of Those Two Things. I'm still your host, the Jace Man, Jace Barnett, and even after the debacle of our last episode where half of the thing was recorded with no audio, you still haven't managed to get rid of me yet. I'm still the host, at least for now. We'll see how much longer Jace puts up with that before I say, hey, we got to get someone in here for this guy. But as of today, stuck with me. So we have a lot to get through because I kind of want to go ahead and re-go through the iSideWith project, shall we say? Process, maybe that's a better word. I want to go through and fill that out for you guys while we talk about some of the points because I think it's important that we actually do discuss some of those issues. It's more important sometimes, or just as important, to talk about why someone supports an issue rather than simply if you just ask them, hey, are you for something or against something? That doesn't always tell the full story. There are many things where I would vote to give Americans the right to do something that I'm personally against, or vice versa, because I believe in personal freedoms and I believe in small government and things of that nature. And so I don't think that I need to force my beliefs on everyone else. So there's many times where you might ask, hey, Jace, how did you vote on this? And I might tell you, and you might actually be like, I can't believe he supports that. It doesn't mean I support that. What it means is I support people's abilities and rights to make that choice, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So I wanted to go through the iSideWith process again for you guys today, this time with sound. I also wanted to do a lot of talking today about Corona and Fauci and his teammates being grilled by Congress today and talk about what I thought of that as I watched that. And it gives me a chance to really talk about how I feel about us in general when we're talking about this issue and many, many other issues. So let's go ahead and dig into iSideWith, okay? So let me go ahead and bring up the browser real quick, and I'll see if you guys can see that. You see that? Okay, great. And you guys still want to be able to see me, right? So let's go down here and do this. But now you can see me, and you can see the browser, but you probably can't really see the browser, right? We need to have it so that you can see the browser pretty well. What does this do for you guys? Is that going to work? Does that work? Can we still hear me? I see the audio being captured and recorded. Hoping for the best. If not, I'm going to be a very, very surly and angry man. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and do this. There was a couple things I wanted to draw attention to that I noticed last time that I wanted to point out. And we'll do this real quickly, and then we'll go ahead and go through the quiz, a much briefer version than I did last time, because again, there's a couple things I want to talk about today, in addition to iSideWith, and so I've got to roll, okay? But real quick, I think this is interesting. So if we click on the polls, and we come over here, and let's say we want to look at the two. This is, boy, they have changed this, not for the better. Give me just a second here. Let's go here. Okay, this is the poll that I was looking for. Okay, the 2020 presidential election candidate poll. So this says, if the 2020 presidential election were held today, which potential candidate would you vote for? Now, this is kind of a misnomer. The way it reads here is not actually accurate, in my opinion, because what happens here is they are assuming, as they should, since it's their site, and as you would expect people to vote based upon the positions they hold, but they are assuming that if you answered their iSideWith questions and you said, okay, I feel this way about this, at the end, it's going to tell you which candidate or which party your beliefs are most closely aligned with. So in theory, the adage would be that if you were 75% with candidate A and 61% with candidate B, you would choose candidate A. That makes logical sense. That's not, however, the way that we always vote. Sometimes you might vote for someone who you don't necessarily agree with on the most things, but maybe more things than other, or maybe more important things to you, or maybe you just agree with someone about the issues, but you don't really care much for their character or their conduct. For instance, Donald Trump. I know that I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about Donald Trump a lot in this podcast. A lot of you are going to love me for it. A lot of you are going to hate me for it. I don't care. I was not put here to give you my opinions based upon whether they'd be popular, well received, liked, or anything of the nature. I promised that I would shoot straight with you guys always, so that's what I'm going to do. So I actually agree with Donald Trump on most issues. He and I are in accord with more things than we aren't today. Now, if you gave Donald Trump's opinions 15 years ago in mine, they would be very, very different because this guy was a pretty far left guy. I think that either we don't know that, we forget that, or we've chosen not to remember it. Regardless, that's actually a fantastic thing too that I want to talk about as we look at the iSideWith thing and some of the commentary that we have today. This is something that I'm going to come back to when we finish the iSideWith quiz, because I want to talk to a running dialogue of something that's been very popular since Bush Kerry, and that's this concept of flip-flopper that I think that we really need to get rid of, and I'm going to shoot straight with you guys on that. And so maybe I'll save that for Can I Be Real with you for a minute. We'll see. Having said that, though, here's the deal, guys. Okay, so again, just because we share more views with a candidate does not necessarily mean that's the candidate we're going to vote for. Okay. So, but in any event, here in good old Missouri, if we look at Missouri, if the elections were being held today and how the people have chimed in and voted, it says that Donald Trump would receive 31% of the vote. Joe Biden would receive 30%. And this is actually closer than it was when I looked at this a couple days ago. So that's kind of interesting. Donald Trump had a 4-point lead a couple days ago, so that's interesting. And then it says Joe Jorgensen would have 18% of the vote. Okay, now I only want to mention this for a couple different reasons. For those of you who don't know, Joe Jorgensen is a libertarian candidate. They typically get a lot of the conservative vote. A lot of my viewpoints are libertarian, although you'll see once we get through this that I say I'm not a Republican, and I don't identify that. I really say I don't have a party. But having said that, you'll see that more of my views line with the Republican Party than they do the Libertarian Party, with a few exceptions. Okay, and so anyway, but I do have a lot of libertarian leanings, and when I do part with the Republican Party, it's usually me being in agreement with the Libertarian Party. But anyway, I say this not just to tell you about me specifically, but to kind of talk a little bit about this. Okay, so what this means is that the Libertarian Party is pretty conservative. So when you say 18%, not every one of these are going to vote for Joe Jorgensen. This is a great case, actually. So 18% of these people who've answered this survey would side with Joe Jorgensen. But very few people actually vote for third-party candidates. I have done it in the past. I will do it again at some point in the future. Surely it may be this year. It may not. I don't know. We'll see. I will let you know when I have voted how I cast my ballot, and I'll do that for every election that we keep this thing going. But I say this because it's a true fact that most people do not vote for a third-party candidate. So with that being said, that means that most of these votes that would go for Joe Jorgensen are probably going to land in the bucket of Donald Trump. More than less. Not all of them, but over half. So that's going to increase Donald Trump's lead. More than likely, you would expect him to take the state of Missouri if the election was being held today with that in mind. Something else could happen, though. Let's say people are disenchanted with the two-party system. Let's say people are angry with it, like I'm not a big fan, right? And let's say people say, this is the year I make a stand, I speak out with my voice and my actions. I say, hey, I'm not going to be forced to say A or B. You have to choose an apple or an orange. I have the ability to choose, and I'm going to exercise that choice. And so people go out there in droves, and they support the third-party candidate. And let's say Joe Jorgensen actually took 18% of the vote in Missouri. That would be crazy, and I don't think that's going to happen, but let's just say it did. In this case, that would actually probably help Joe Biden, because the votes that Jorgensen's going to be polling more than likely are going to come from the Donald Trump camp. The people who are going to vote for Biden are going to vote for Biden anyway, and if you weren't going to vote for Biden, you probably weren't going to vote for Donald Trump or Joe Jorgensen. So a large third party turnout would actually be bad for Donald Trump based on what we're seeing these percentages here. A low third party turnout would actually be really great for Donald Trump. Okay. Something else I wanted to look at is ethnicity. Okay, because I think this is really worth talking about before we get into this too. So if I go over to ethnicity, and I'm waiting for it to load, I do apologize. It's going slow. It's going really slow. All right. So we'll take a look at the white voters here. So if the election was being held today based upon how people have answered their iSideWith polls, it looks like white voters would side 39% with Donald Trump, 37% with Joe Biden, and 11% with Joe Jorgensen. So this looks pretty similar to what we just saw in the state of Missouri. So you would think that if it was only white voters going out to the polls, that would look pretty good for Donald. Okay. Well, let's take a look at black voters. And this looks about the same as they when I looked at a couple days ago. This is very interesting. With black voters, you can see that they're still turning in at 11% for Joe Jorgensen. That's the exact same that the white voters were polling for Joe. What's interesting to me, though, is Joe Biden gets 39% of the vote. Donald Trump gets 36% of the black vote based upon the issues. Now, I don't think Donald Trump is going to get 36% of the black vote. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, we can ask ourselves again, why are the black voters, why would so many of them refuse to vote for Donald Trump? And it could be a lot of things. But based upon the issues, people who go here and they fill out the iSideWith polls, over a third, 36%, that's over a third, more than a third of black voters would actually side with Donald Trump on the issues. So that's pretty interesting, is it not? I mean, that's not a narrative that we hear. We go back again and look at white. Donald Trump enjoys a 2% lead over Joe Biden with white voters. Not really that surprising. I think that most of us could expect that. But when we look at race, and again, their site is going really slow. I hope it does better than this when I'm actually filling out the poll, taking the quiz. Go back here to black. Biden only has a 3% lead over Donald Trump with black voters. And I think that most of us, based upon the narratives that we hear in the media and things of that nature, we would expect this to be like 78 or 80% for Biden, maybe more, and 5 to 10% for Donald Trump, if that, right? The fact that on the issues it's only separated by 3% is kind of crazy to me. It's very interesting. I thought it was worth taking a look at. Without further ado, I'm going to dive in and take the quiz with you guys watching me here, okay? So the 2020 political party quiz. Answer the following questions. See how your beliefs match your political parties and the candidates. Okay. Should the government increase or decrease military spending? Increase, decrease, or other stances. And the reason I'm filling this out is, again, I said to you, one of the reasons I wanted to fill this out with you guys so that we could talk over some of the issues is because I simply don't think that saying yes, no, or answering a lot of the questions that way really gives the full narrative. I think that you need to do some research. You need to do some due diligence. You need to get down deeper. You need to get into the weeds about a lot of the issues. That's what I do, and that's what we're going to do in this show and this podcast a lot. Is we're going to go much deeper than the surface level. The surface level is where I think the media hangs out, and the surface level is where I think a lot of Facebook people hang out, because we are so much all or nothing, or we act like everything is so cut and dry. And I think that we do ourselves and our country a big disservice by not drilling deeper. I think that we have an ethical and a moral responsibility to do some research and then talk through these issues and vet them out a little more detail. Okay. So we're going to start out doing. We won't do that on all of these, but on many of these we will. So should the government increase or decrease military spending? I'll tell you right off the bat. I believe in a strong military presence. I believe in having good funding for our men and women who are in uniform. But I also think that spending is already out of control, and I think that we already have way too many dollars out there being allocated. So I really want to take a look at what's other stances here, just to take a look real quick. So we've got increase, decrease. We've got neither. I'm satisfied with the current amount of spending. Increase, but only after our deficit is drastically reduced. Sounds like a winner for me. Read more stances submitted by users. Okay, yeah, we're going to go with that one, because I do believe in having a strong a strong military budget. But again, I think that we are already spending like crazy, and so I don't think a great way to ever handle your financial issues is to go ahead and start spending more and then trying to straighten out your fiscal platform. I think you got to get it in order, and then you can go ahead and allocate the dollars where you want them to be. In other words, we shouldn't treat our country the way that most of us treat our credit cards. We say, yeah, I know that my spending is out of control. I know that I'm doing this wrong. Oh, I don't know why I keep doing this, but I've been messing up. I've been putting about 35% of my money over here in this bucket when really I know that I need to have at least 40% of my budget over here. And right now I've only got 26%. So I'll just go ahead and up the spending over here. No, you need to adjust the rest of your spending first, and then you can put a few more dollars here if you think that's important. That's how I feel about our military right there. I think that we do need to have a good military budget, but I think that we don't just need to put more dollars there now. We gotta cut back some other areas first. Should the U.S. accept refugees from Syria? Let's take a look at other stances real quick, and I'll tell you how I feel about this. So we got yes, no, yes, we should accept 10,000, yes, but only families, yes, but we should accept more than proposed 10,000, yes, but only after extensive background checks and continuous monitoring to ensure they have no terrorist connections, no, we send all refugees back, no, we should eliminate any opportunity for terrorists to enter the country, read more. Okay, so here's how I feel about this, okay? In general, I think that we need to look at how we're going to handle refugees in general and terrorists in general. And I personally don't think that this part is that important. I think we put way too much details on unimportant stuff. So this from Syria part, I don't care. What I care about is keeping my country safe, and I care about us doing and supporting people in a humanitarian way, aka taking care of refugees when we have the means to do so. But we need to figure out what's the best way to give humanitarian aid and at the same time protect our country. I don't think we look at countries and specifically say that. To me, that is nuts to simply say, well, if you're coming here from this country, whether it's Syria or Egypt or um, Argentina or Venezuela or any of these places that we may have some skepticism from, I don't think it's I don't think it's fair or accurate to say, well, we can't accept people from there because they're obviously up to no good. Usually they're trying to escape from a regime that we're not fans of anyway. Now, it's true they could be coming here to do harm to us, or they could be acting in a spy capacity, but they could be doing that just as well if they were coming from an ally nation of ours. Don't If you don't think that we have enemies in ally nations, you're a little too naive, okay? So I personally think that we need to decide how are we going to handle refugees. Like right now, Cuba's not a friend of ours. Never, they haven't been for a long, long time, right? We still have this thing where it says, hey, if you are from Cuba and you reach our shores and you touch American soil, welcome home. You get to stay. But we are pretty big odds with the Cuban regime, right? So I don't really see that as being tremendously different. We need to figure out how we're going to handle refugees in general at large, and then I think we should apply that across the board. But I also think we need to keep ourselves safe. So I'm going to say this: no, we should eliminate any opportunity for terrorists to enter our country. But again, I'm not saying no because of the from Syria part. Let me make that clear. Should foreign terrorism suspects be given constitutional rights? Okay, I'm going to say no. And I will also say that many times, if you are a conservative voter, whether you're a brother of mine or a sister of mine, you're probably going to think that I'm too nice and too lenient because I'm going to constantly talk. I'm constantly going to defend people that you don't want me to defend because I do believe in innocent to proven guilty, and I do believe that we need to give people a fair trial, and I believe that the justice system needs to play out for everyone, not just the people that we like. That being said, for me, the talking point here, or the important part here, is not the talking point. The important part here really is foreign. Okay? If you're a foreigner, I'm sorry, you do not get constitutional rights. Constitutional rights are afforded to U.S. citizens, not people who are not U.S. citizens. So that's all I need to say about that one as far as why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. Science issues. Do you support the use of nuclear energy? I'm going to let you know a secret here. I do. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's in other stances, okay? Yes, but with public subsidy. Yes, and nationalize the industry. Yes, as long as there's no public subsidy. Yes, temporarily while we increase investment in the clear renewable alternatives. No, we should invest in cleaner alternatives such as wind, hydroelectric, thorium, and geothermal. Read more stances submitted by users. And I'm going to say, okay, well, looks like yes here to me. That's how I feel about that. And I'm seeing if you can also decide how important these issues are to you too. This is another thing that would determine how well people vote for the candidate or party at the end of the quiz when they give you the results, based upon did you really go back and answer that this issue was super important to you most or not very important to you at all, or if you just left everything right in the middle. There's a couple, I'm going to leave most things at somewhat. There's a couple of these that I think are pretty darn important to me, so I will go ahead and bring them that way. Should the government require children to be vaccinated for preventable diseases? All right. I'm going to say no. Okay. I'm going to take a look at other stances here just because we see. Yes, but only deadly contagious diseases. Yes, with exceptions of those with religious beliefs forbid use of vaccines. Yes, but they are essentially protecting other children who are too young. Regardless, it should be decided at the state level. No, but this requires vaccination in order to attend public school. No, public fund ad campaigns. No, but hold parents criminally liable for transferring deadly disease to other children. Read more stances. Okay, so there's a couple things at play here for me. Again, I said I'm going to say no, and um, I think I'm actually going to go back here and say, regardless, this should be decided at the state level. Actually, I think it shouldn't be at the state level. I think this one should be decided at more of a local level, to be honest with you. This is my opinion. But having said that, let me explain why I lean towards no. The government should not be doing this. There's a couple different things here, okay? And really, I just said both of those. It's government and require. Okay, let me just say that I am not an anti-vaxxer. I'm a pro-science guy, and I believe that vaccinations are smart. They work. They've saved our lives, and the world population would be drastically smaller if it weren't for vaccinations, because many different diseases, not corona, or maybe with corona, but I mean we wouldn't have had to wait till now. Many other diseases in our past would have either taken us out or did pretty crazy numbers on us if it weren't for the wonders of vaccinations. And so I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I believe that we should be vaccinating our children. If you love your kids, protect them. Okay. What I am also not a favor of, though, is the government saying, "Hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that," especially when it comes to what's going on inside of your home. I think that parents should have a right to determine how they're going to rear their children. I think that if you're a good parent, you make sure that your children are healthy, happy, and you're making sure that they're getting vaccinated. But at the same time, I don't think that Uncle Sam has the right to be saying, "You're gonna do this." You understand? You're gonna do it. It's not negotiable. We're gonna tell you what to do with your kids. No, no, you're not. So I really think this should be done at a local level, not just the state. But based upon the information here, I think I'm going to go ahead and say, regardless, this should be done at the state level. Okay. Should producers be required to label genetically engineered foods or GMOs? Okay. So we have yes, no, and other stances. Very interesting question for me. So definitely want to take a look at these questions here. Yes, but I would prefer to ban GMOs. No, that's not me. Yes, consumers have a right to know what is in their food. I think, yeah, that's probably what selection I'll wind up choosing. Yes, I trust the science of responsible food engineering, but I don't trust the motives of the food companies selling them. That kind of sounds like me too, except the whole trusting of science of responsible food engineering. I do trust science, but when you put of and anything behind that, now I trust it less because I don't ever trust any party. I don't trust any persons or organization or entity. Everyone has their own bias. Do I trust science? Yes. Do I trust people who are using the science? Usually not. Usually not. We can make that science say whatever we want it to say. And I certainly don't trust the company selling them. Regardless, producers should not be allowed to patent foods. Okay. No GMOs are the most promising solution to ending world hunger. I don't know if they're the most promising solution. I think they're certainly a promising solution. They can certainly help with it. No, we have selectively bred crops for thousands of years, and labeling just adds an unfounded stigma to the science. I think that's kind of true, and I don't think that breeding and pollinating things of that nature is really any different. It's man having a role in how the biological processes that are occurring naturally in nature are taking place. We are having an evolutionary impact. I used evolution on purpose because it's a topic that we'll probably talk a lot about at some point, not in this episode though. Um, so in any event, I think that even if it's not on the label, I think that again, I'm a big proponent of personal accountability. You do the research. If something's important to you, quit being lazy. Get out there and find out about it. You shouldn't need to rely on a label to tell you whether something is good, bad, and different. Figure out what you're putting in your body. Figure out why you're doing it. Okay. So I don't think that the onus should be on other people. However, I also believe I work in marketing, and I don't believe it's okay to mislead people. I certainly don't think it's okay to lie to people, and I don't think it's okay to. Um, I'll just stick with mislead. Okay. I just don't think that's okay. I think you have to have truth in advertising. You have to have truth in everything, and a label is a piece of advertising. So I'm not anti-GMO by any stretch of the imagination, but I most certainly believe that consumers do have a right to know what is in their food. So I'll say yes, but I also say that if it's not said, hey, we're going to put the labels there, and you're going to know precisely what's in it, I'm not going to feel bad for you, and you're not going to get my sympathy. You you can get out there and find out what's in it, especially in this day and age. Almost everyone has access to the internet in our country. Do some freaking research. It's not that hard. Should the government continue to fund Planned Parenthood? No. I don't even need to look at the other stances. Let me just say no. What is your stance on abortion? So I'm going to put this as a more here. I'm going to say pro-life, and this will be my most important issue. What I want to say about this is not only am I pro-life, I am very passionately pro-life. Okay? With pro-life, this is how I feel about it. When you look at the stance of abortion, people say sometimes they ask, are you a single issue voter? And I say, I'm not a single issue voter, but I am a single issue vote loser. What I mean by that is very simple. There is not a single vote that you can pluck out of thin air that you and I agree on that's going to earn you my vote. We can agree on a bunch of things, and any one of them is not enough to make me cast a ballot for you. However, there is an issue that I feel so strongly about that if we don't agree on it, rest assured, mark my words, you're not getting my vote. And this is important, especially in this day and age, especially when we have this two-party system that I think is a big joke, and especially when we have issues where I'm 40 years old, people. I have never, ever yet had the luxury of getting to vote in a presidential election where I was excited about the two candidates that we had to choose from in November. The dialogue in every single election that the Jace man has voted in so far has always been people feeling pretty similar to what I felt, and it has been, well, this is the lesser of two evils, and so we're going to pick the lesser of two evils. I reject that line of thinking and that way of thinking. I always have, I always will. That's stupid. That's a terrible way to do things. First of all, we're not casting a vote against someone. We're casting a vote for someone. That ballot is saying, this is the person that I believe is best suited to run this country, represent me, and drive this nation into the area that I think it needs to be driven to. It's not, hey, let's keep this other person out of power. That's a terrible way to decide things. I've heard people say they're the lesser of two evils. That's stupid. It's like saying, well, this person could be no worse than Hitler. How do you know they couldn't be any worse than Hitler? What if we had Hitler versus Bin Laden and those were the two choices? How do you pick the lesser of two evils? Why would you pick the lesser of two evils, and why would you settle for them? There's a lot to blame for that. A big thing to blame for this is the way that we run our primary elections. When you see the channels, all these channels being biased, right? Fox News, the channel that I usually watch because it supports my narrative. It gives me the confirmation bias I seek. It gives you the confirmation bias that you seek. And the liberals who are like, well, that's so biased and they're conservative leaning, we're like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. It is definitely conservative biased. What they don't want to rationalize or realize or admit to is CNN, MSNBC. They are biased too. They're biased the other way. And they are just as strongly biased, if not more so, towards the left. I will say that part of me saying, if not more so, may be because of my own right-leaning bias. So maybe I don't see Fox News doing it as strongly, but I'm admitting that Fox News is biased. I have no problem saying that. And maybe CNN and MSNBC are not doing it more so. I feel like they are. But even if it's not more, I can certainly think that unless you're trying to lie to yourself or you've got some kind of clear agenda that you're trying to prove, most of us should be able to agree that most news media outlets lean strongly to the left and Fox News leans strongly to the right. Okay? It'd be nice if we had a news channel that we could go to that didn't have any bias. It was just, hey, let's just report the facts. What I think is sad is, to be honest, I don't think anybody would tune into that. To be honest, that's what I'm going to try to do with this podcast. I'm going to try, again, Bill Riley used to say that he was the author of the no spin zone. I believe I have inherited that mantle. I think I'm the no spin guy. I'm the guy that's going to tell you exactly like it is, whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you're my friend, my foe, whether we're allied on an issue or anti on an issue. I'm still going to tell you like it is, whether it supports me and my friends or not. You're going to get a real honest answer. And I'm not so sure that my podcast will find an audience. I think it should. I want it to, obviously, but I think that I am so straight talking and willing to tell the people that I agree with hard facts, even when they work against me and us, that it may not take up. Because my enemies, they're not going to tune in to listen to me by and large. And by enemies, I mean the people that I disagree with on the issues. My adversaries is probably a better word. They're not going to tune in because they don't want to listen to someone talk positively about the opposing side of issues that they have. My friends, my allies who agree with me, many of them aren't going to want to tune in to listen to me in this show either, because while we may agree on the issues, I may talk about how unfair the narrative is, or how it's being covered, or how I don't like the way that we're presenting it against our foes, or about how we're missing a point and we're talking about something that's straw man rather than fact. So there may not be an audience out there for this program. It remains to be seen. But having said that, so again, we have the lesser of two evil narrative, right? Well, so imagine this. Imagine this. You're being told again you have to choose between Hitler and bin Laden. Well, that's kind of the way I would feel like if we had a Democrat person running for president. And I'm going to make the assumption here, could be false, but I'm going to make the assumption here that they are pro-choice. I have another word for pro-choice, but anyway, we'll play politically correct and we'll play nice today. Today we'll play nice. And we'll say that the Democrat candidate is as expected, they are pro-choice. We'll say that now the person that won the Republican primary and got the nod, and it's hard for me to believe that this would happen, but anything can happen based upon the way that we do our primary coverage. Again, we talk so much, we don't talk about who does the job best. This is what I was trying to say earlier before I chased a rabbit trail. We don't talk about in our primaries about who the best candidate for the job is. We talk about who the candidate is that's most likely to win. That is a terrible, terrible way to find your leader or your person. We don't need to be picking who we think has the most likelihood to win. We need to be picking who we think is most likely to run the country in the proper way. And then if you're scared that they can't win, well, there's a couple things that you can do about that. Number one, you can turn out and vote for the candidate. That's the first thing that you can do. If you think, well, this is the best person suited for the job, but they can't win. Yeah, anyone can win if we get out there and support them. So that's the first thing that you can do for that candidate you think has no shot. Go out there and vote for them. And sometimes that's why I voted for the third party candidate. People are like, oh, you're throwing your vote away, Jace. No, I'm not. I'm voting for the person I think is most qualified for the job. And if enough of us do that, that person who can't win can actually win. They could. So that's the first thing I'd say is go out there and vote for that candidate. The second thing that you can do is lobby for them, campaign for them. You go out and campaign for the people that you aren't very excited about because you want to defeat this other guy. Many of you do not like Joe Biden, but you're out there furiously campaigning for him because you can't stand Donald Trump. So you're out there donating 10, 15 hours a week of your time to get Joe Biden elected when you don't even like the guy. So if you can lobby and campaign for someone that you're not in favor of, why could you not bring that same energy for a candidate that you actually like and want? And if we actually do things like that, these candidates who can't win will start winning some elections. Mark my words. So as I was saying, we have a Republican person who has won the Republican primary, and they are pro-choice. So now I have my choice in November is I have a pro-choice Democrat or I have a pro-choice Republican. Guess which one I'm voting for? Neither one. I'm going to throw my vote away and vote for a third-party candidate who respects and loves and preserves life. Okay, so again, this is a issue that's very important to me, and there's not a single issue that we agree on that will get you my vote, but this is most definitely an issue that if we don't agree on, you've lost my vote for sure. Should health insurance providers be required to offer free birth control? No. And we use this word free a lot. For some reason in the political realm, free means if you're not asking me for money right now, it's free. That's not what free means. Free means there's no cost. There's a cost. Someone's picking that up. And it's no one's responsibility to pay for my junk. Okay? Should the U.S. build a wall along the southern border? Okay, so most of my people are going, you bet, yes, yes. And plenty of the opposition are going, no way, no way, no way. I'll be honest. Here's how I feel about it. I don't really think the wall is going to do a dang thing for us. And if it does, I think it's going to be very little. Very little. I want to be wrong about that. I hope that the wall is being built. I hope that it proves to be a major success in stopping illegal immigration. I'm pro immigration. I'm anti illegal immigration. Follow the rules, follow the laws. Plenty of other people are, and they should be respected, and you shouldn't be hampering their chances by doing it the wrong way. Okay? But at the same time, I'm skeptical that the wall is going to accomplish much other than spending more money. This is to me is kind of a weird issue. We're supposed to be the party of fiscal responsibility. We're supposed to be, as conservatives, we're supposed to be the people who stand up and go, government spending needs to get into control. This issue comes along, and we're like, we can't throw enough money at this. We don't care what the cost of the wall is. It's going to cost way more to not build the wall. I'm not so sure that's true. Not building the wall is costing us a lot of money right now. But when we say I don't care what the cost is, it's going to cost us more not to do it. That's almost like again the lesser of two evil politician thing. I don't care how bad this guy is. The other person couldn't be as bad or worse. Yeah, they could. It's nice for you to talk about hyperbole and predict the future that nothing could be worse, but you don't know that. I don't know that. Okay. I lived in Ferguson where we had the riots in St. Louis. Had a home there. I no longer own the home. Had to leave for some reasons that we may or may not get into in this podcast at some point. But I was not very welcome in that community. I was the only white guy on my block, and I guess that wasn't okay for some of my neighbors. I didn't have any problem with my neighbors, and I certainly didn't have any problem with the color of their skin. But it appeared to obvious from some of the messages that were left on my property that they didn't feel quite the same. So yeah, racism you can be racist even if your skin tone doesn't match mine, and your skin tone can match mine, and you can not be racist. This is very possible. I don't like to speak in generalities though and say, hey, if you're black, you're racist, or if you're black, you're immune from racism, or you're not racist, or if you're white, you must be a racist douchebag, or no, you can't be because I don't consider myself a racist. So this is a terrible dialogue. Everybody's talking about how white people are racist, but of course we're not racist. Newsflash. Some people are racist, some aren't. And we can just leave it there. We don't even have to say what color those some people are. Some people are racist, some people aren't. Bottom line. Now, in any event, what I was trying to say about that is I owned a security system when I lived there. That did not prevent my home from being broken into once, twice, 3, 4 times in a year and a half period. This is not hyperbole. This is not me making something up. This is me telling you literally my home in Ferguson was broken into and vandalized 4 separate times in an 18-month period. I had an alarm system. the stickers, the signs, all of that were out in the yard. It did not act as a deterrent to keep people from doing what they wanted to do. I think that's what the main thing the wall is supposed to be, is a deterrent. And I believe that if people want to do something and they have nefarious ideas in their head, most people are going to find ways to pull that off, whether you've taken steps to prevent it or not. Sad, but it's true. So I'm not convinced it's going to do much, and I know it's going to cost a lot. So I actually lean towards no on this, but I am kind of curious what the other stances are here. Yes, and Mexico should pay for it. Okay, I want to go ahead and click that. That sounds great, and I know that's the promise that Donald has given us. Mexico's not going to pay for that wall. That's not going to happen. If you say we should have a wall, this totally changes my mind. Because again, the part that I'm bothered by is us spending money on something that I don't think is going to be effective. But if you could tell us that we'll have the wall, even though I don't think it's going to be very effective, any effective is better than no effective, and it's not costing us money. Okay, now this sounds great, but I don't think that's practical. If you're believing that, it's a weird belief to have. There's no incentive for Mexico to do that, and we can try to make an incentive to do it. And no matter what penalties that we put in place, or no matter how we do our trades and things of that nature, I don't think that we can tilt it strong enough that it proves more advantageous to them to pay for that wall than it does to keep the wall open. Yes, but make it a high-tech surveillance barrier instead of a physical one. I'm a high-tech guy. That sounds pretty cool, but I don't think it's going to be any more better than the physical one. Again, my security system was tech. It wasn't a physical one. It didn't prove to help me too much, so I'm going to say nah. No, this would be too costly and ineffective. That's kind of how I feel. No, we should adopt an open border policy. No. No, keep the current wall, but do not build more of it. No. No, but increase our military presence along the southern border. No, I don't think that either. So I'm kind of torn between yes, and Mexico should pay for it, and no, this would be too costly and ineffective. Based upon those two choices, I'm gonna keep with no. This would be too costly and ineffective, just because I don't see Mexico paying for it. If you can convince me that Mexico is willing to, or will, whether they want to or not, pay for that wall, then I'll go ahead and move this vote. If you can show me that that's practical and it's not just pie in the sky, dream, dream, dream. All we have to do is dream. If you can tell me that that's not what's happened here, I'll go ahead and tick this box. But to me, that seems very unlikely. And it's nice to wish upon a star, but those stars don't go our way very often. Should illegal immigrants have access to government-subsidized health care? No. Do you know why? This word right here. Another thing is, I'm not really a big fan of government-subsidized health care in general. I don't think our citizens should have access to government-subsidized health care. It's just me. I really don't think that we should have government-subsidized health care. I'm just being honest with you. I don't. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, that's my opinion. But I don't think that an American citizen, should have access to government-subsidized health care. So I definitely don't think that people who are here illegally should have access to government-subsidized health care. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on a more. Should illegal immigrants be offered in-state tuition rates at public colleges within their residing states? No. If you're illegal, you do not get rewarded for doing stuff illegally. No reward for you. Should the government increase environmental regulations to prevent climate change? I really want to talk about this issue. I'm not going to be able to get in the other stuff I wanted to talk about today. I can already see that. That's okay. I owe you guys a bonus episode because of what this is now episode 2, which should have been episode 3. Episode 2 got totally screwed over. I will go ahead tomorrow and bring you a bonus episode on Saturday. It's not usually what we do, to make up for the episode that I missed. And then we can dive in and talk about a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about today. iSideWith, I guess, is going to take up all of our time today. And that's okay. This is important too. That being said, here's the deal. I want to talk about this issue, because this is another one of the many, many issues where I think that we aren't talking about what's important. We're talking about emotional stuff, and we're talking about the talking points. We're not talking about application. I think application is way more important than just how we feel about something. And I think that we often put our opinions over facts. Okay, let Jace not be prideful and arrogant, unlike a lot of other people out there. Let me just start out saying, I don't know if man is causing climate change or not. I don't know. And anyone who says that man is not causing climate change, you don't know that either. You don't know that either. And anyone who tells you unequivocally, 100% for certain, that man is causing climate change, you don't know that either. We're all speculating. We're all looking at data. Now, I will say this. I accept data if I can trust the sources, and if I see enough data, you've got to take your head out of the sand at some point. It would appear to me that there's enough data supporting the concept that man is having an impact on this globe, that we should take a look at that and really consider that it's possible, whether you think that it's not or not, whether you think we are having an impact or not. There's enough information there that we should at least step back and go, but what if we are? Maybe. I mean, what if we are? But I'm a person of faith. Okay, you guys already know this. This is those two things. We're going to talk about politics and religion, the things you're not allowed to, and they're going to come from the Christian conservative perspective. I'm Christian above all other things. So when I think about climate change and man, I don't use the hot button words like global warming. I use a word that's hot button to me, and it's called stewardship. Or I'll use another one. It's called respect. I'll use another one. Not just a word, a phrase. Cause and effect, or consequences, right? As conservatives, we're supposed to be the conservative people who teach about accountability. We're supposed to be the people who talk about morality issues. We're supposed to be the people who say that you should be accountable, and you should be respectful, you should care for something. Well, as Christians, we also should be good stewards. This isn't Jace's planet. This isn't your planet. This is God's planet. This is God's creation. This is just like if I was going out of town for a week and I went and knocked on my next door neighbor's door and I said, hey, can you take care of my place while I'm gone? If he or she says yes, I expect them to care for my property. And if the roles are reversed and they knocked on my door and said, Jace, I'm going to be out of town for a week. Can you look after my place? And I said, you bet. I'll be a good neighbor and look out for your place. Newsflash, I would take every bit as good of care of their property as I would my own, probably better, because that's the respectful thing to do. That's the neighborly thing to do. That's being a good steward of what we've been entrusted with. So even if you say that man has zero impact on the climate, then I would say, does that matter? Does that mean that we can abuse this place or do whatever we want to it? It shouldn't. If we are believers, if you are a fellow believer in Christ with me, then we should look at it and we should say, we need to take care of this place because God has entrusted it to us. I'm assuming that most of you, if you took your kids out camping for the weekend, you wouldn't leave your campsites littered. I'm saying most because I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Undoubtedly, some of you would. But I'm assuming most of us would teach our kids and we'd go, hey, we got to pick up after ourselves here, guys. We can't leave it like this. It's disrespectful. We made this mess. We need to clean it up. Right? If we would do that with our campsite, we'd better do it with our town. If we're doing it with our town, we better do it with our state. If we're going to do it with our state, we better do it with our country. If we're going to do it with our country, we better do it with our continent, and so forth. Okay? We have a responsibility to take care of this place. We do. So that's how I feel about it. Also, though, I'm not a big fan of government regulations, okay? I think that we should take it upon ourselves to say, I'm not going to act haphazardly or selfishly or anything of that nature. But I'm not a big fan of the government stepping in and doing that. But I gave you my opinion. I think that we should step up, be personally accountable, and say, hey, we're going to make sure that this place is well cared for. That's what I believe. But I am kind of curious what's in other stances now that I've told you how I feel. Yes, provide more incentives for alternative energy production. No, tax carbon emissions instead. No, and global warming is a natural occurrence. No, provide more incentives for alternative energy production instead. Read more stances submitted by users. Add your own stance. Okay, so I'm just going to say no, but I told you how I feel about it, guys. I did tell you how I feel about it. But I'll also say this. I also believe that this is where the capitalist system, free enterprise, the free market works great. Even if you are the world's biggest proponent of clean energy, alternative sources, and you're of the belief that we are destroying this place and we're already past the bell curve, then I would say, okay, this is the greatest chance for you to vote. Voting is powerful, but voting with our dollar is super powerful. There's a lot of companies out there right now thriving in the green energy space. That's wonderful. And if that's the stuff that you support, you should be happy about that too. If we had government regulation, I don't think that these companies would be doing it as well, because you'd be looking out for the companies that were already there. If we put the regulation in place, mark my words, these green companies that are popping up new, these startups, they're not going to thrive because they don't have the money to compete. These companies that you think are big and corrupt, they're the ones that are going to thrive from it still. They will alter their business models and their production. They will. They won't now because it doesn't. There's no incentive for them to do it, right? But if it became regulated in that way, if we have stronger and stronger regulation that way, guess what? The ones who are already big, they stay big. And if you don't think that happens, you're fooling yourself. So right now, you think they're corrupt, and you say, "Hey, we need more government regulation." Basically, what's going to happen is these people that you think are corrupt and in charge, they're going to stay corrupt in charge. They're just going to change the setting. Should the U.S. withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement? I thought we already did. That's why I'm a little bit confused by this question here. I thought that already took place. For those of you who don't know, let's take a look here, okay? Click on Learn More. In June of 2017, President Trump announced that the U.S. would withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord in an effort to boost the nation's industry and energy independence. Okay, goes on here. So yeah, I thought this already took place. If it hasn't, I'll say yes. If it has, I think that we should just boot this question out of here. Or you should change it differently. Should the U.S. withdraw? Should the U.S. try to get back in, or something of that nature? I thought it already happened. Maybe one of the commenters can let me know whether this is something that Trump suggested and we're going to do, or we're attempting to do, or whether it already took place. I thought it already happened. So I need to do a little bit more research on this. But in any event, for those of you who don't know, basically, I'll just go ahead and tell you this part here. Mr. Trump argued that the climate accord was unfair to the U.S. since the agreement imposed easier restrictions on China and India, who lead the world in carbon emissions. So, yeah, that's basically it. Again, I believe that we should take care of. I believe that we should take care of our environment, of our planet. I do believe that. At the same time, I don't think that we should be the only people on planet Earth doing it. Everyone needs to have personal responsibility and accountability. And I think that we shouldn't be doing something that the rest of the world's not going to if it puts us in a strenuous position. At least it shouldn't be mandated that way. Again, we don't need to have the government doing it. It comes down to you and me to make a difference. We don't need Washington, D.C. to make a difference. Me and you can make a difference. If we stand up and say, hey, I refuse to buy your products if you're doing it this way, they'll get the message if you don't just say it, but if you actually do it. If you say, hey, I don't care that this hurts us, I'm willing to be hurt by it, and I refuse to buy this or that if you are willing to destroy places, people will pay attention because they're going to follow that dollar. It happens always, every time. But at the same time, I don't think our country should say, well, let's go ahead and hand out some sort of regulations or agree to things that put us in a disadvantageous position against our peers in the global community. That seems really weird to work against yourself, which is how I really felt the Paris Climate Agreement did. Okay. Should disposable products such as plastic cups, plates, and cutlery that contain less than 50% of biodegradable material be banned? So I'm going to say no for the same reason I talked about earlier. Okay, I'm not a big fan of government mandates, to be honest. That's the first part. The other part of this is if you use green products, if you're for alternative energy, if you're for recycling and reuse, things of that nature, there's a lot of new companies that have come on the horizon in the last few years who are really doing well. And they're doing well because of people like you, and I will applaud you. People like you have said, hey, these are the companies that I want to support, and I believe that we should take care of our world, and I'm going to stop giving my dollars to people who believe it's okay to destroy this place. That's a great outlook to have, and I applaud you for doing it. But again, like I said, if you think that these companies would still be doing well if the government was handing out these regulations, you're fooling yourself. It wouldn't happen. ExxonMobil, they would be the big winners if the government handed out regulation because they've already got all the money. They would simply alter their business model to suit it. They've got the money to make that happen. They don't have to start from zero like these other companies. Domestic policy. Should there be more restrictions on the current process of purchasing a gun? Let's take a look what other stances has here. Yes, and ban all guns from public use. No. Now, I've told you this in the past. I'll say it again. I don't really like guns. I don't. Some of you will get mad at me for saying that. Okay? You can get mad at me. I have never told people that you don't have a right to be mad at me. Be mad at me. I personally don't like guns, but I support your ability to buy one and own them and use them and have as much ammo and guns as you want. Okay? I'm not a fan. Just not. But I don't tell other people to listen to me or do what I do. So I'm not going to tell you you can't have them just because I don't like them and I don't own any. Yes, but by closing the gun show loophole. There is no gun show loophole. This has been debunked more times than I can count, so we're not going to do that. Yes, require strict background checks, psychological testing and training. We're already doing background checks and all this other stuff. No, only for assault weapons. By and large, I think the answer is no. No, only for criminals and the mentally ill. I'm pretty sure that criminals can't buy guns. That's the restrictions, and that's the purpose of the background checks now. So now I guess it depends upon how we define criminals, right? I will concede that. It depends upon how we're defining criminals, right? No, increase the penalties for gun-related crimes. No, the government should pass a national standard ground law. Okay, so based upon the options that are here, I'm pretty sure this is already happening, except with maybe the mentally ill. I'm not exactly sure how the mentally ill, how that relates in buying a gun, mainly because I'm not sure exactly how detailed the background checks go because, again, as I've already stated, I don't own a firearm, so I've never had to go through the process. Maybe I should attempt to do that just so I am a little more educated on what that process looks like from both sides of the fence. But in any event, I'm a Second Amendment guy, and so I say no. Should teachers be allowed to carry guns at school? So I'm going to say yes, but I'm also going to say, much like I thought the vaccination should be decided at the local level, I kind of think that this one should be decided at the local level too. Let the people in their communities decide how they're going to run those communities and what's best for those communities. Washington does not need to say what works best for Jefferson City, Missouri. Jefferson City, Missouri should say what works best for Jefferson City, Missouri. That's how I feel about that. Should victims of gun violence be allowed to sue firearm dealers and manufacturers? No, and you shouldn't be allowed to sue McDonald's because you've ate too many Big Macs either. Go after the person who committed the crime. That's what we should do. Should convicted criminals have the right to vote? Yes, no, other stances. Okay, I already know what's in here. I remember this from the other day when I tried to do this with you guys. Yes, but only after completing their sentences, parole and probation. I'm going to choose that one. In general, I believe yes. Now, right now, I don't know how well you guys know about this, but in our country right now, we have states where once you've been locked up and you're a felon, you don't get the right to vote back. We have other states where you do get the right to vote back after you've completed your parole and probation. We have some states where they're trying to make it so that you can vote while you're incarcerated still, and then we have other states who say, hey, after you are released from prison, you can go vote that same day. Parole, probation are not part of the issues there. Basically, the way that I feel is once you've served your time and you've paid your debt to society, you should be allowed to have your rights back. We can't penalize people forever, or we can't say that we're giving them freedom and then not give them their rights back. They're not free. The right to vote is very important. It's essential to your right to being freedom. I'm not sure you can actually say you're free if you don't have a right to vote. At the same time, I certainly believe that your parole and probation is part of your debt to society. So I think that you got to do that. I also think, though, that there's a lot of people serving time in our prison systems right now who probably shouldn't be behind bars. We lock people up for some of the stupidest stuff, and it is a huge burden on taxpayers. So I'm going to say yes, but only after completing their sentence in parole and probation. With that, I also want to say sorry to a lot of people out there who are currently on parole and probation for something that I don't think you probably should have had your rights taken away to begin with, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. Some stuff we can fix going forward. We can't fix things retroactively. Do you support mandatory minimum prison sentences for people charged with drug possession? No. And this kind of goes up to the other one up here, okay? We have a lot of people serving time for things that they don't, and huge sentences and things of that nature. the cost that we have is just outrageous, just outrageous. Uh, this goes to the next one too. I'm going to bring all this together. Should nonviolent prisoners be released from jail in order to reduce overcrowding? Again, I'm going to say no, even though I just said that there's a lot of people behind bars who shouldn't be there. There's a couple things that affect this, right? Okay, sad fact. Okay, I used to work for the Department of Corrections. I did work in the prison system. Okay, and I did not feel the way about a lot of offenders that a lot of people who work in the Department of Corrections or a lot of people who don't work in the Department of Corrections feel. We look down at them as lower class citizens and all kinds of things, and we talk like they are the foul stench of the earth, that they're just terrible. There are a lot of bad people in prison. Prison's a bad place, but there's also a lot of other people in prison who they're me and you. What are they really in trouble for? We act like everyone who's in prison did something terrible. It's not the case. In many cases, all they are is they were slightly unluckier than you and I. They might be serving prison time for something that you and I have done ourselves once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. Only we got away with it. We didn't get pulled over or whatever the case may be. And I feel like it's a really weird way to go about things, pretending that we're better or pretending that we're above these things when we do many of the same things, or pretending like they're terrible people because they do the same thing that we did. Some of them are just unlucky, or they weren't as good at it as we were. That being said, I also know that being institutionalized is a real thing. Many people who go into prison, they go in and they're actually good people. But when you're around that environment and you're there all day, every day, our prison systems are supposed to rehabilitate. By and large, it doesn't happen. Wish it did. It doesn't really happen though. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We can get into that in some other episodes. But it typically doesn't happen. Okay. And so what happens is a lot of people who are behind bars, when they leave prison, even if they were good by and large law abiding citizens when they went in, they don't come out and they're not that when they come out, they're not that way. They were surrounded by career criminals, and their own thinking has changed. And some of them do have a grudge. They feel like something was taken away from them because they shouldn't have been there to start with. Whatever the case may be, they also learn that, hey, there's an easier way to go through life than the way that I was doing it before. And they learn shortcuts while they're in the prison. So what I'm trying to tell you is some people go in as pretty good people and very bad criminals. I don't mean bad in terms of, you know, bad crimes or doing really terrible things. What I mean is they were bad at being criminals. They were bad criminals. But while they're in prison, they kind of learn to be good criminals. They learn to do it much better. And so when they come out, they're there. And so even though I think there's a lot of people in prison right now who shouldn't be there, I almost think based upon that, we can't just turn the cells loose and say, okay, well, we're sorry that we've kept you here and we shouldn't have, so go. I feel bad about that. I don't feel like they should be there. And having said that, I feel bad saying, hey, well, you got to stay. But again, this is the nature of what we have already built. I'm not saying keep it broken. I'm saying fix the problem. But this is one of those cases where I think that we can't retroactively fix something. We can recognize there's a problem now, and we can start trying to figure out what to do about the problem today, and then put the cure in place for tomorrow. But we can't go back and act like we had the cure yesterday, because when we do that, we're creating a bunch of new problems. I admit that it's unfair, but it's where we're at. Do you support the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act? Do I support Obamacare? I do not. Talked about earlier, I wasn't a fan of government subsidized health care, so that should answer that one for us. Should the federal government increase funding of health care for low-income individuals? No. Do you support a single-payer health care system? No. Should the U.S. raise taxes on the rich? Nope. I don't think we should be raising taxes on anyone. But I'm hoping there's something here about flat tax. So let's see what else is out there. Reform to a flat tax. I like it. This is how I want to comment on this one, okay? I'm not rich. I'm not rich, okay? And there have been many, many years in my life where I was well below the poverty line. I spent many years in my life where I was eligible for any kind of benefit our country offers. And I did not take them. I did not sign up for them. There were many times when I was eligible for every single benefit that was available, and I couldn't afford my rent, and I was going to be evicted, and I didn't have food in the fridge, and I still didn't sign up for those. My convictions are true convictions. I don't simply say I believe something because it works well for me. When I say I believe something, I believe it. And I try to live my life according to that, whether it benefits me or doesn't. Okay? Now, that being said, though, when we talk about raising the taxes on the rich, and we talk about this is the narrative I've heard said all the time from the left, is that the wealthy should pay their fair share. I don't know how your math classes worked when you were in school, but when I was in school, fair basically meant that what was on the left side of the operate, or you've got the operands and the operator, right? So what was on the left side of our equation and what were on the right side of our equation, when they matched and they had the same value, then it was equal. And that's what fair is, when they're equal. When you have something on the left side and then you have something on the right side and their values are not equal, that's not fair. And so when you say, hey, the wealthy should pay 20% and the poor should pay 1%. Now, neither of those are correct percentages, and I'm not trying to make them correct percentages on purpose. This is it. This is just to tell a story or to set up a diagram and give you an analogy. The bottom line is that 1% and 20% are not the same. And make no mistake about it, percentages are the best way to show fairness if you're going to really talk about your fair share, because a share is a percentage of a pie, right? Right? So you can't say, well, we'll tax everyone $20. That probably wouldn't be fair, at least not a fair share. If you want to say the taxes, everyone's annual taxable obligation to our federal government is $20, then it'd be fair if that was our taxable obligation. But if we're going to talk about a share, we're talking about percentages. And it is completely not shared if some people are paying one percentage and some other people are paying a different percentage. That's not fair. You can be mad at the wealthy all you want, but to say that they should pay a larger percentage of their income than you should, then when you say they should pay their fair share, you're not actually arguing for or lobbying for fair. You're lobbying and arguing for someone to be treated worse than you're being treated. That's really what you're arguing for. Should the government raise the federal minimum wage? No. This is so stupid. Let me just say this, okay? It's just stupid. If you guys took second grade economics, you read a social studies class, they talked about economics, and they talked about one of the fundamental laws of economics is supply and demand. That means the more supply of something you have, the less demand there is for it. That means it takes more of that something to get you something else. If it was a bartering system, if if everyone has 1,000,000 apples and there's only 10,000 oranges out there, those oranges are going to be vastly more valuable than those apples. You're going to have to give an awful lot of apples to get one orange. The same thing happens exactly. This, you can look at inflation, all these things. We're trying to explain what happens to you guys, okay? If everyone out there has $1,000,000, dollars don't have the value that they had when everyone had $10. So you're going to have to use a whole lot more of those dollars to get something than you would have had the day before. If the federal minimum wage is $8 an hour, just for example's sake, and a gallon of milk costs you $4 today, and tomorrow the federal minimum wage is $16, we're going to say double rather than the $15 thing that I hear a lot of people talking about, rest assured that gallon of milk will not be $4 tomorrow. If everyone's income doubles, your products are going to cost more. You will not have any more buying power than you previously had. And really, if you're saying that you want to have a better life for you and your kids and so on and so forth, really what you're saying is you want more buying power. Having more dollars does not get you more buying power. It doesn't do that. It's a nice simplistic way of thinking of things, but it's just not reality. Should the U.S. raise or lower tax rates for corporations? Let's see some other stances here, okay? Remove tax on corporation and tax shareholder dividends instead? No, I don't believe so. Maintain the current rate? Okay, maybe. Lower but eliminate deductions and loopholes? Keep current rates but eliminate deductions and loopholes? increase for large multinational corporations, but lower for small businesses. Okay, I'm going to say we can lower the taxes on corporations, but let's eliminate some loopholes. Uh, I might even say deductions there. Yeah, I'm good with that. I think we keep the taxes. If we keep the taxes that are available to individuals, the people who are in power in these corporations are still going to have to pay their own taxes at the end of the day, and so they can take advantage of whatever deductions and things are there. But if we eliminate those deductions, they don't have the incentive to do that at the same time. We eliminate the loopholes that decide to do that at the time. But if we lower the taxes, then they still have plenty of money to operate their businesses, and I don't think that we need to be taxed. Honestly, I don't think that we need to be taxing business owners and then taxing them again on the personal side of things. We are being double taxed. I know a little bit about this because I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life. I've almost always been in business for myself, and I've traditionally had to pay taxes, and then I have to turn around and pay taxes again when I do my personal income stuff. And I'm paying myself out of what was left from the business, and I had to pay for that. So I feel like a lot of times I'm being taxed twice. Not fun, and I would argue not fair. But anyway, do you support increasing taxes for the rich in order to reduce interest rates for student loans? No. It is not the wealthy's job to pay for my education. It's not the poor's job to pay for my education. It's not my uncle's job to pay for my education. It's not my viewer's job to pay for my education. It's my job to pay for my education. This goes in great with the next one, too, so we'll go ahead and bring these together. Should the federal government pay for tuition at four-year colleges and universities? No. Same things I just said before. We're going to leave the preschool separate because I just want to talk about college. The other thing I want to say about this is, guys, not only do I think that not only do I think the federal government should not be paying for all of these colleges and universities, and not only do I have a big problem with the use of the word free college and free tuition. You guys remember Inigo Montoya? You keep saying that word. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. That's how I feel when I hear the left talk about free college. It's not free. It's being paid for. You guys have a very, very interesting definition of free. It's not the same definition of free that I have. Free means it doesn't have a cost. If you say it's free, and then you turn around and you look at the guy next to me and say, hey, you want to go ahead and pay for that? It wasn't free. The guy next to me just got the shaft. Okay? But the other thing I want to say is, you guys can flame me if you want about this, but I actually think that four-year college and universities, the traditional education environment that we've been telling people for years now, son, you've got to go to college. My beloved baby girl, you need to go to school. There's nothing in the world as important as an education. Can I just say that I am now of the mindset that I think that is a crock? I think the traditional education environment or education system is broken. It's flawed. And at this point, I think it's a matter of us doing insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You've heard that, right? That's how I feel about colleges and universities. I think it's really weird. Let's say the typical cost of a college education at the state college is $20,000 a year. I'm not saying it is. I said let's say it's $20,000 a year. So you go to a four-year school, $20,000, $40,000, $60,000, $80,000. So we're talking about $80,000 education. And let's say that you were going to major in, let's say that you're going to major in engineering. Okay. At best, half of the classes that you took were applicable to your degree, which hopefully is going to be applicable towards your chosen career path. So at best, half of the time that you spent in class is going to help you in your job and help your employer by that token. The other half of the time you're going to spend learning about things that you have no interest in whatsoever and probably will not benefit you in your career role or your chosen career path. We always see the thing growing up too. We see in sitcoms where people are complaining about algebra and geometry and say, where's this going to benefit me later? How's this going to help me in my life? And we'd always see these nice little illustrations of things of that nature, and we'd see how it was going to come back and help them later. Now, I'm not dissing math, and I'm actually a lover of mathematics, to be honest, and I love algebra and geometry. I love math. So I'm not saying it applies there. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But in general, I'm just talking about this concept where we're saying we've been telling kids who think, how is this going to benefit me? We're like, oh, trust us, it will. Trust us, it will. And now as an adult myself, I'm saying maybe we should stop, the kids should stop trusting us when we say, trust us, it will. It may or it may not benefit them. Some of it might, but I also guarantee a lot of it won't. There's a lot of things that you're learning in school that have no practical application for you down the road. I hate to be the person who's singing this news here and is making all these things that mom and dad told you. I hate to be telling you that what mommy and daddy told you is false. And I hate to be causing discontent in the home, but I'm here to say that what mommy and daddy told you oftentimes is false. There's a lot of that stuff that they're going to learn that no practical use, no application later. Why are you learning that? And I think it's really preposterous, again, to spend 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, and only half of that time be spent learning the skills that you actually want to focus on. There are a few career paths where I think that we need to have a traditional educational model. Like if you're going to be a medical doctor, for instance, it makes all the sense in the world to go through that. Med school, you're focusing constantly on the stuff that you're going to be doing. And you're learning stuff that's going to support your job and your job skills overall. Even if you are going to specialize in one body system, like you want to work with the endocrine system, you still need to know about the other parts of the body so that you can know the impact of the medicine that you're practicing has on those other parts of the body, and vice versa. Okay, so it makes sense to me there. But by and large, if you want to become an engineer, to make you spend a bunch of time in class learning that something that would maybe help someone who is going to open up a bakery somewhere, I don't know why we're doing that to you. I don't see how that helps you. I don't see how that helps you at all. I don't see how it helps your employer later if you're not going to be an entrepreneur. If you're not going to start your own business, you're going to go work for someone. I don't see how it benefits them either. I think a much cooler and a much more sensible approach these days is to have mentorships, and also to have uh, like today, like if you go to school, you say, hey, I'm going to go work for your company and you're not going to pay me, but I'm going to learn educational experience. I'm going to get some education that pads my resume, and I'm going to go ahead and have something that benefits me in another way. You know what we call these things, guys? Internships. Sometimes we get college credit for those internships, right? I think it's good that we get college credit for those internships if we're going to have college credit. But I also think that if we could find internships permanently, that should be all you need to have your college credit. To me, it makes a whole lot more sense. Instead of saying, I'm going to pay the state of Missouri $80,000 over the next 4 years to learn 2 years worth of engineering at best, and then go out with still zero experience. All I've learned is book stuff that in theory tells me how to do the stuff that I'm learning. I still have to go find either an internship or a job. Someone has to hire me with zero experience so that I can learn on the job. What if I just erased that previous 4 years that I spent in the classroom? And what if I went to a company and said, hey, tell you what, I don't have any experience. But if I come back with a 4-year degree, I still don't have any experience. This is what my interest level is. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I don't have to wonder that. This is what I've always wanted to do. Bet on me, please. I'll make it advantageous for both of us. You go ahead and pay me nothing for the next 2 years. You don't pay me anything for the next 2 years, and I'll come here and work every day for 6 to 8 hours. You just partner me with someone and let them show me the ropes. And then at 2 years' time, you can decide whether you want to hire me on full time or I can walk away. But you got 2 years of free labor, and I got 2 years of learning my job trade and 2 years of experience. We both win. I do see that as win-win. It's win-win for that student who's suggesting it. It's win-win for that company. And the great thing for the student is in that model, now we're talking what I just said, 2 years instead of 4 years. So now they went there, they had this conversation at 18 years of age. Now they're ready to go work for that same company that they've already been showing their worth to for the last 2 years at 20 years of age rather than 22. And now at 22, that company was going to hire them. They still don't know squat. They read a book that said this is how you do something, but they haven't did it. They don't know for sure. So at 20 years of age, they're going to be more prepared and more valuable to that company than they would 2 years later. 2 years later, they got a degree, but they don't have any skills. They don't have any experience. They don't have any practice. And they can demand more money now because they've been doing the job for 2 years than they could fresh out of college because, again, they have zero experience. And yes, they just worked for free for that company. I understood what I just said. I didn't forget that part. But they also don't have any debt. Instead of walking away with owing the state of Missouri $80,000, now they don't owe their employer or anyone else any money. $0 is their debt. So way more advantageous, in my opinion, for the student. And again, I don't even have to tell you how the company benefits from this. It's pretty obvious, right? 2 years of free labor. Works great. The other opportunity is mentorship. Let's say that you do want to have someone because maybe a company says, I don't have time to be training you like that or making you learn on the job or allowing you to learn on the job. Or while we're giving you this time and attention, maybe it's taking away from other things. Sounds like a great plan, but we can't really afford to do it. Okay, fantastic. So now I already knew that I was going to invest $80,000 into my education. Let's say that I take that same $80,000, and you can do this with a whole lot less than $80,000. You do this a whole lot less, whatever cost you're giving the state. This is just an example, because I want to paint the picture as ugly as possible. Now you go find an engineer. You go find someone who's well respected in the state and your community, has been doing this for 25, 30 years. They're in demand, super popular and well liked. They're super good at their job. Everyone knows them and brags about what they bring to the table. And you say, you've been doing and thriving for the last 20, 25 years in the exact field that I've wanted to dedicate my life to. You're living my dream, man. You're doing exactly what I want. I have such respect and admiration for you. I was wondering if you could take me under your wing. And I know you go work an 8 hour a day at the office, and you got to come home and you need time with the wife and the kids, or the husband and the kids. If you don't want me to be promoting the patriarchy right now, and some of you being offended, I already know. So whatever that is, you simply say, hey, what I want to do is I want to ask you if I can buy some of your time. Can you mentor me? Maybe I come over here on Tuesday evenings for 3 hours and Thursday evenings for 3 hours, and I spend 6 hours a day with you on Saturday. So you're giving me 12 hours of your week, and you're going to teach me exactly what has made you such success. And you do that for the next 12 to 18 months. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pay you, let's say 18 months, 18 divided by 80,000. Well, let's see. If we did 5,000 a month, that'd be, let's do it 5,000 a month. 5 times 12 is 60. Got 20 more. So 16 months. So you say, let's say I give you $5,000 a month. And yeah, we can still have student loans and grants available, the Pell Grants and stuff that are available for traditional education, have for non-traditional education. So we say, I'm going to go ahead and give you $5,000 a month for the next 16 months to basically try to turn me into your clone. Not so I can take your job, but so that if your employer needs another one of you, great. And these other companies that are sitting there calling you going, hey, man, what can we do to lure you away? How can we get you to come over here? And they can't do it because you're happy where you're at. I can go fulfill one of those roles. And everyone can benefit from your skills because you've spread those skills out. And you get $80,000 to give me these skills. So the incentive for you is you're getting paid a whole lot of money to teach me and take me under your wing. There's a reason for you to do it. You don't think there's a lot of people that would jump at that opportunity? And you don't think that could help employers again? You don't think that someone who is doing it and working in that space can show you more about how to do that job properly in the right way, in the best way possible, in the most efficient way possible than what you can get out of a book? Come on, of course you can. And we just turned your 4-year education into 16 months. Yeah, the cost was the same, but like I said, you could probably do it for a whole lot less than that. But I wanted to paint it as ugly as possible. Either way, we're talking about $80,000 of debt. But in one case, you still have zero experience and you haven't actually did the job one day. With a mentorship, like I just outlined, now you've been doing the job for 16 months and you've been learning from the best. And those dollars for education, they were still spent. They still stimulated the economy, but more direct stimulation. They went to an expert in the field who gave you their undivided attention rather than a classroom of 16 or 20 or 30 or 100. You got this person undivided attention, and they were focused wholly on your success because you were paying them directly to ensure your success. They weren't getting a paycheck from the institution to teach everyone and say, hey, well, class is over. We'll see you tomorrow. Do you think I could have some of your time? We'll see you tomorrow. They have no incentive to be there. Your mentor, though, has tremendous incentive for you to succeed because you're paying them directly. Yeah, I think the current educational model, the traditional educational model, is badly broken, in my opinion. Should the federal government fund universal preschool? Again, no. Let's just stop this whole federal government funding everything thing. Should the electoral college be abolished? I'm going to say no, but I wouldn't mind seeing it updated in some ways. Right now, I think that it is broken in certain ways. I think the electoral college serves a great purpose. It's awesome what it's supposed to do for us. I don't think it pulls it off 100%, and I do think that places like California and New York have way too much say over what happens in the state of Missouri or Arkansas or so on and so forth. But also a lot of the amendments that they're talking about basically talks about 100% adjusting to population, in which case there will be these changes. But by and large, I think places like California and New York, or big cities like Los Angeles or New York City, who still have way too much control over the way the rest of the nation works, you'd wind up with the same kind of problem. The numbers would be slightly different, but I think pretty much the same thing would happen. It does need to be, we do need to look at, I think we need to find something to do with it and make it more effective and more relevant for 2020. But it should not be abolished. I want to see what's in here. Yes, and switch to a ranked voting system. Yes, and switch to a representative democracy, popular vote system. So if we do away with this, basically, they could just say yes, right? Switch to a representative democracy, popular vote system. Well, if we get rid of the electoral college, that's what you're left with. So you don't need to switch. If you abolish it, this already happens. No, the balance of votes. No, but the balance of votes by population should be updated. Yeah, I think so. No, the electoral college ensures representation of the whole country instead of just major cities. It's supposed to. Again, I'm not sure that actually happens. It's supposed to. No, but reform so that votes are distributed proportionally instead of the current winner-take-all system. Maybe. I don't know. This is a tough one for me because I'm not exactly sure what the solution is or how we should update it. I'll just say no because I do feel it should not be abolished, but I do think that we need to tamper with it and fix some things about it that don't work properly. Should a photo ID be required to vote? Yes. Should foreigners currently residing in the United States have the right to vote? No, it's a constitutional right. We already talked about this, right? You don't have constitutional rights afforded to U.S. citizens because you're not a U.S. citizen. So no voting for you. National security issues. Should the president be able to authorize military force against Al Qaeda without congressional approval? Oh, guys, I don't know how you're going to feel about me with this one, but I just got to talk frank, okay? I just got to tell you like it is. A few years ago, we had our first president that I can remember talking about executive orders. And at the time, we hadn't really heard too much about executive orders. And I grew up being told that the president of the United States isn't really as powerful as we like to say. Most powerful man in the world, so on and so forth. But he doesn't really have that much power. All the power rests with the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. And of course, then we have our three branches of government, right? We've got our legislative, our executive, and judicial branch. And so you've also got the Supreme Court, who has a tremendous amount of power. And while the president is our figurehead, and he certainly has some power, the big power that the president holds is veto power. That's what I was always told as a kid growing up. That's the big hammer that the president has. If you want to talk about what the president's power is, it's his veto power. Because when the laws come out, or the bills come out of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and we've got this thing that's supposed to be passed into law, the president can go, no. That is his big presidential power, the ability to say no. Well, then we started looking at things in the last few years with executive orders. And now we're saying that these presidents can do all of these things that we were told that they really couldn't do before. And one of the things that I think is very interesting about this, I think, is a great illustration of the greater concept of how people in our nation are so two-faced and what politics on social media look like today. By and large, what I found is, as far as executive orders or presidential powers go, if you like the person who is in office, if that is the candidate you voted for or the party that you're aligned with, then you pretty much think that when the president comes out and says something that you agree with, you're like, yes, he's the president of the United States. He should be allowed to do this. You better believe he can. That's right. That's his powers. That's his power as the president. That's his right as the president. You just shut up and respect it and quit whining because the person that you wanted isn't in office. Funny enough, when you don't like the president in power because you don't like that person as an individual or it's the opposite political party or whatever the case may be, and now the president comes out and says that they're going to make an executive order to do fill in the blank, then we have a tendency to be like, who does this person think they are? Seriously? Hey, Mr. President, did you ever read a book about U.S. government? You ever heard of this thing called the House of Representatives? They didn't kind of cover the U.S. Senate when you were in college, did they? Kind of overreaching your bounds there, buddy boy. Humble yourself a little bit and realize you ain't running the show. And that is our dialogue. We basically lobby it when we say that we're going to because it makes us happy and we are supporting the person who's in office. And when it doesn't, then they need to be held in check. I'm of the mindset that the president of the United States needs to be held in check, whether I like them or I don't like them, whether I voted for them or I didn't vote for them. The president of the United States needs to be held in check. I believe that. And I think that Donald Trump does a lot of stuff right now that he needs to be held in check for. And so many of you people that are pro-Trump, you're mad at me for saying it. Be mad. I felt that way when it was Obama in office. I'd feel that way if I was in office. Hold me in check. That office is not and should not be an excuse to write a blank check with whatever you choose to do. And I don't mean money with that blank check. I just mean hand out the power like you see fit. That's not the powers of the President of the United States, or it's not supposed to be. At least not my understanding. Should the president be able to authorize military force against Al Qaeda without congressional approval? I think I just answered this basically, right? I said no. But let's take a look at what's in other stances. Yes, we must use whatever means necessary to prevent another terrorist attack. I do think that we should prevent terrorist attacks. But the whole whatever means, no, not by whatever means. No, Congress should approve all military conflicts. I believe so. And that's, yeah, I guess I'll go with that. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say Congress should approve all military conflicts. At the same time, when we're saying military conflicts, it's kind of interesting because we are fighting wars that we never had before. You know, it used to be nation versus nation. Now it's nation versus organization. And so we do need to really update our laws in terms of how we handle warfare and what military force looks like in a modern world. However, I do not believe it's the president's right to just go saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And if it is, I think we need to vote on those types of topics so that, you know, ask the American people if they think the president should have that power or not. And then hopefully your elected representatives can either back or not back that law based upon what the American people have to say. But let's just not go ahead and say the president can make this decision. Let's put laws into place to decide whether or not the president has this. And personally, I don't think that is powers that the president should be able to have. Not the way it was when I was growing up. 9/11 changed a lot of things, didn't it? But I told you how I feel about that. And for me, this question is not just about this. This is the phrasing of this question. And I almost want to say yes, because I want to prevent terrorist attacks. And I know what happened after 9/11, and I know certain things that we debated in the Congress and in the Senate. And I know how some of those decisions came about. But I think we need to be careful, because, again, we can use these same kind of concepts to unfold with other issues. And boy, is that and has that been happening. Should the U.S. assassinate its suspected terrorists in foreign countries? Man. Oh, boy. It's with a heavy heart that I say yes. I want to take a look at other stances, though, just to see what's there. And I'll tell you why it's with a heavy heart. It's not because I have any remorse in my heart for terrorists. I don't. The problem that I have here, the hurt part, is suspect. I do not really feel like we should be handing out punishment to people who are suspects of any crimes. Again, I'm a big fan of innocent till proven guilty. However, when we're talking about terrorists, the other part here is in foreign countries. Again, we're talking about people who are not U.S. citizens. Therefore, they are not afforded the same constitutional rights, and they're not afforded the process of due process. They do not have the constitutional rights to a fair trial. Now, again, there are, before you say anything, there are laws in place that say that we have to do certain things with foreign parties at times of war. We're also not talking about times of war and things. There's a lot to unfold here. This could unfold in a lot of different ways, and I am fully accepting of and open to us having all the dialogue and discussion. I'm on board. Let's do it. Let's talk about a lot of these things. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. But having said that, I'm going to say yes, but I want to see what else is here. Yes, but there's only if there's undeniable evidence they are planning to attack our country. Tough to have undeniable evidence, to be honest. And if they're planning, if they're already planning to attack, it might be a little bit late. Yes, but only if there's undeniable evidence they haven't committed an attack against our country. Well, now it's definitely too late. And I guess if they did do that, yeah, it doesn't really change. I said yes before, so there, I guess. No, they should be captured and given a fair trial. There's a part of me that thinks that. There is a part of me that thinks that. There's also a part of me that thinks that, again, they aren't U.S. citizens, so I can't give them the same rights. There's also another part of me that thinks that usually if these terrorists have done that, they're going to be in a position of authority oftentimes, and the people around them are probably not going to let them be taken too easily. It can happen. We've seen some proof of that. We saw some pretty awesome proofs of that, to be honest. But by and large, they're probably not going without a fight. A bullet is coming out one way or another. But to be honest, I love the sound of that. It's just, again, they're not U.S. citizens. Now, if we want to say, hey, these rights to a fair trial applies to everybody in cases of all crimes in all instances, then I'll back up how we're going to follow the laws, and I'll say that bam, okay. No, capture, interrogate, and imprison them instead. It's pretty much the same thing, except we're not giving them a trial, I guess. We're just capturing them forever. So anyway, I'll say yes, but I don't hate that, and I'd be a liar if I said I do, guys. Transportation issues. Should the government increase spending on public transportation? No. In general, if you ask me, should the government increase spending, almost whatever comes after, I'm going to say no. It's just me. Okay. Which party do you identify with most? I'm not gonna go ahead and answer that one. It has nothing to do with this. Zip code. Okay, so these are local issues. I'm not going to answer these either. They don't have anything to do with this. Which qualities are most important to you in a candidate? I'll go ahead and answer these. Actually, I won't. I'll do that at another time. I'm anxious to get to the results here. It's pretty interesting results here. I expected to see something with a little more detail than this. Yeah. So my results are still processing. Okay. It's taking a long time. In the meantime, I guess you get to look at me and wish that you were spending tonight in my arms, or wishing that you were me, or wishing that you never knew me, or wishing that you never pressed play, or, okay, we can get back to this now. Interesting, interesting. So I did this just the other day when you guys were looking, and I was at Republican was higher than Constitution, and so based upon me just changing um, how important a couple of those issues were, and I think I did answer one or two of those questions that I was kind of told. There's a couple of those that I could answer either way. I think that swayed it. The other day, these percentages were basically reversed almost. Republican was on top by just a percentage or two of Constitution, and now Constitution's on top of Republican a little bit. So kind of interesting. But there you have. All right. So good stuff. What we can see though from this results is that I'm definitely not a Green Party guy. I'm definitely not a Bernie Sanders guy. Not a peace and freedom guy. Joe Biden's probably not getting my vote either. And these transhumanist peoples aren't getting my vote either. So pretty much you can see where I'm at here, right? I will go ahead and post these results for you guys on the page. I'm going to go ahead and go back and answer. If you go back real quick and take a look here, you will actually see, well, we'll do this in a second here. If I go back over here, let's go back and do the quiz again real quick. What I did not point out was there's more questions than the ones that we answered in each of these. So you've got immigration issues, right? You'll see that there's show more immigration questions. It's still got my other answers here, so we'll keep them. I'm not going to go back and change anything, guys. But there's other questions here. And there are these with all of these different categories. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out as much of this stuff as possible. And once I have that done, I will post the results on my Facebook page, which you guys may want to check out. Look for a bonus episode tomorrow because, again, I do realize that I owe you guys another episode since I had that little audio thing, real good amateur hour, something for the blooper reel where half the show had no audio. Made me look awesome, I know. That's okay. It just goes to show you that even people as great as me can still make mistakes on occasion. It's rare, but it can happen. So let that be a lesson to you that when you guys make a mistake, don't feel bad. Even Jace makes mistakes sometimes. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, Jace, it's easy for you. I mean, a guy like you that doesn't ever do anything wrong. Now you know that's not true. On rare occasions, I do something wrong. So this is fine. I guess I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. I'd say I'm sorry I went long, but I'm not. I had a good time talking through the issue and filling it out. And so there's an hour and 45 minutes of good content for you. Hope you found something to either enjoy or something to maybe send me violent emails about. Whatever. I'm happy that you listened. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Did you like that? Do you want more? Then you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Hated the show? Hated Jace? Want to put Jace on blast? That's fine too. Let us know in the comments. And whether you love us or hate us, join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for another opportunity to talk about those two things.